As it's just coming up to midday, I say as the Australians, good day. So good to be here again. I was here last year, and it's good to see a few of our shareholders here, and I'm sure I'd like to encourage a few more to join Cyan as a shareholder. I'm John Cronin, the Executive Chairman of Cyan, and also got the CFO, Simon Smith, with me here on the right, and we are available on stand 6 for any questions or anything like that afterwards. So I'm delighted to be able to walk through some of these slides with you to give you a better understanding about what we do. And it's quite interesting, you know, I guess we're the follow-on from Brady when you look at what they do in the energy world. We're the ones that control the flow of their energy to consumers and offer the measurements then to consumers. I take it that we've been through all this, and for those that know about it, no forward-looking statements, etc., etc. So what do we do? So we're in the Internet of Things, and that's a huge and big market. And the Internet of Things leading to smart cities is a buzzword that you'll hear around the globe. However, what are people really buying today? There's two things that customers buy today, and that is smart metering and smart lighting. All the other things, measuring pedal bins, rat traps, mice traps, whatever, is great. I think that will come along when people can afford to do that. But today, there's some real issues that they have, especially in the emerging markets where, as an example, India loses $32 billion a year of money. And that $32 billion is where they've generated the electricity, distributed it to their consumers, but haven't collected the cash. So that's a big problem across emerging markets of $32 billion. 16 billion of that is stolen. And that's where we come in, helping the end user, that's the utilities, collect the cash from the end users for them to actually generate more energy and more wealth. Interesting enough that Brady, you know, talked about China, talked about India as the big markets and the growth that's needed for those consumers when they buy additional white goods. Guess what? You know, with that, they're going to have the controls put in place, which we offer. So, you know, we do play in the biggest markets in the world. We do play in India. We do play in China, Africa, including South Africa, and Brazil, and we continue to look at other markets. They're big markets, we've got presence in all of them. We are classed as the thought leaders in smart electricity metering in India, and what we then do on the smart metering, it's low power, low cost, and actually what we call it is a narrowband radio solution with software that links the home back into the centre with the utility. And then on here we do smart lighting that controls street lights and tunnel lights. So for instance, street lights in China at 3 o'clock in the morning when there's very little road traffic going through, you don't want the lights blaring at 100%. You want them dimmed down to about 50%. You don't notice by the naked eye the change. However, you are then saving 50% of that cost. So I'll give you a bit more on this. So on the smart metering, if you can see this, these represent meters in homes. We put a module inside there. We collect all of that data, that information back to a central point. It then goes out over GPRS or over your mobile network. We provide some software that goes into the utility billing system. And what they can do is sit in a call center and look exactly what the consumer is using at home. They can incentivize that consumer, because it's two-way communication now, to either use more electricity or less. As Brady said, some people get penalised for it. So this is a way of controlling the usage by the consumer and offer them incentives as it goes along. Also what it offers, for that $16 billion that is stolen, if somebody tampered with the meters, it sends an alert back to the call centre for that engineer to know something's happening with that meter. So if it's been tampered with, you can then do a remote disconnect on the computer. It takes the meter off the grid, you can send an engineer out to check, is it theft or is it a fault? And then you put it back onto the grid. So they've got those controls and controlling that 16 billion India losses. On lighting then, what we do is in the street light, we put a device in there, again collects it all up, goes back over the internet, over GPRS, over the mobile network, and again they control the usage of when they want to dim lights or switch every second light off or whatever they want to do. In places like Brazil in the day, they want the reverse, because when they have real storms, and it goes really black and dark and miserable, they want to switch all the lights on so they can remotely put those on if a storm comes in, as an example. We've even put street lights into the Amazon, so extreme weather, heat and rain, and they work there and they're doing really well. This just demonstrates the 32 billion losses and the leakage, whether the technical or theft that occurs, but it's a huge loss, as I mentioned, that happens in India, but it also happens in other emerging markets in the world. So as an example, we play in the biggest markets here. You can see some of the sizes of the meters. In India, there are 200 million electricity meters, and that compares with 28 million electricity meters in the UK. So you can see the comparison of size and scale of India and other countries. But you can also see that by 2021, the Indian government, out of that 200 million, wants to have 130 million smart meters put in. And now what I call the sort of exciting time is happening, where we're getting some real good traction. The first 4 advanced metering infrastructures, that's the end-to-end solution over radio, contracts in India we have won. And we will continue to win others. I'm not saying we're going to win all of them, but we will win a majority and a good portion of those. How are they doing it? Well, they are actually getting and investing over $20 billion to encourage the utilities to put in place these controls and communication devices. They come out with a program only a couple of months back, well actually a month back, called the UDAY program, UDAY, it's on the net. And again, this is where a lot of the utilities in India are bankrupt. So what they're going to do, the government, they're going to raise bonds with the banks, and they're going to forgive 75% of their debt. To do that, they've actually got to put in smart metering into the smart grids as a condition to get that write down of the debt. So that's a huge incentive, as well as there's money put aside to encourage them to install smart meters. I mentioned the countries that we operate in. This represents the number of domestic residential meters. You can see in China, 460 million, in Brazil, the huge numbers, and it's just starting to happen. So in China, we have sold smart lighting. We've never sold smart metering. We've now got a partner that we announced, and that partner now, New Capec, is actually going to take us into one of the 2 utilities. There's only 2 utilities in China, would you believe, for the size that it is, and we're going to enter with our radio solution with them later on this year. We're now doing proof of concepts and other trials with them, and I think we're going to really get some business in China in metering. And again, it's all about relationships of the ecosystem you build up to enter how to get into the markets. And this really comes down to having the right partners. It's really important. The size that we are, we go through partners such as Larsen & Toubro. That's a 22 billion market cap company in India. Part of what they do is smart metering. That's the meters themselves, and we provide the communications through them. So Tata Power, where we won the contract, Tata Power have placed it with Larsen & Toubro, and then they place our portion to us to do the communications and the software. Tata Power are delighted with what we've done. They've just recently, in the last couple of weeks, issued a follow-on order as we continue talking to them for multi-year contract as a call-off contract. It's a good name, Tata Power. They're one of the leaders going forward in what they want to do in innovation and change in the power industry in India. And not only that, then we have other partners who are called system integrators like Enzen. Enzen have helped us win 2 contracts. They gave us 1 contract, we continue to do that. They just recently awarded another contract to us. So we either go through system integrators to the utility, or we go through meter manufacturers through to the utility. And it's their balance sheet, they're the ones taking the bonds and the guarantees that's needed on these large contracts, and then it's a continuous rollout. When we win a contract, we expect to get follow-on orders as long as we're on time and on budget, and that's important. We also have a worldwide agreement with Vodafone. So Vodafone, as you know, are huge and in many countries. So they've taken us into South Africa where they own Vodacom, and now we're starting to form and do a proof of concept in South Africa whereby we control the meters. And if you know anything about South Africa, they have water geysers, and they lose a lot of energy by heating up these water geysers, like big immersion heaters, but they're huge. So what we can do is control the meter by keeping the minimum number of lights on, minimum amount for cooking, but we can switch off the water geyser remotely, and that'll really save a lot of the waste that they have and control that. We also have on the lighting then, Asker, who's another partner who's based in China, who actually has got us the orders for the street and tunnel lighting that we have there. These are some of the orders that I've talked about that we've won. So Tata Power, just recently the follow-on order that we got. New CAPEC, where we're entering now the Chinese meter market for electricity. PVVNL is an order that we got there, along with Mysore, which we're delivering this order now. Most of this revenue now will come in the first half of this year. So CESC have actually given us another order here. So obviously they're not going to give you an order if you're not performing on the first one. And then with another El Swedi, another partner, who's an Egyptian meter manufacturer, we got this letter of intent in Ghana, and actually we got a small order, and I've got people working there now to roll out some smart metering in Ghana on the radio to show the utility that radio works, as opposed to putting a SIM in every single meter. In actual fact, the business case, just on technology, would save them $150 million on 200,000 meters by using our technology instead of putting a SIM in every single meter. Just to go through the first orders that we got, what's important out of this is there's 2 million domestic customers here with Mysore. There's 3.5 million here. So as we roll out, it's a continuous rollout year on year, and we see that it's very sticky. We've never seen somebody put in a communications platform and rip it out. And secondly, we've never seen two platforms go in because they can't then talk to each other. So once you've got a customer, the customer should stay with us year on year, so that's good for our pipeline and progress. Today, just in India, we've got 31 opportunities that we're pursuing. When I first arrived a few years back in Cyan, there wasn't anyone, and no employees at all of Cyan in India, because we're flying executives from here to India, but there's no consistency of conversation, relationship. Today we have 15 people, and that's grown to 20 just in India because of these opportunities. You can see there's just under 500,000 units that we're going for from these opportunities, which equates to 53 million potential customers. Do you remember I talked about 130 million that India wants to roll out by 2031? That really is showing that a third of them are in play today. So you can see that they mean business, and they want people to deliver what they say they'll do. So delighted with those. Just to give you an idea of areas that we've won business, we're going to continue. I mean, we've got 34,000 lights that's been deployed in China that work, and delighted to do that. We got partners then in Brazil for lighting and for metering. And in fact, our partners got with the utilities out there, the regulator approval now for the retrofit product that we use, which means you can put a device in alongside an existing meter. The existing meter is what we call a dumb meter, but it makes it smart by having a plug-in alongside that meter. Which we designed that in Brazil and then sold it not only in Brazil, but also into India. This is the team here, the non-executive boards. And we've got here, Vikas is the Vice President for Asia, Steve is the CTO, Martin looks after development and installation, and Heather is the Company Secretary. What you have to think, and when you look at Cyan, it's been around a long time, you'll say. Yes, it has, but really, this part we're in is what we call Cyan 2, coming from 2008 onwards. Before that, we were actually in microprocessors, that's hardware. Today, it's all about the software it's all about the communication. So it's a different world. We didn't change the name of Cyan because a lot of our customers in India and Brazil, et al., know who we are, so why would you change the name? But really you've got to think that it's been reinvented from 2008. It's a different company than when it started off all those years back. You know, we are recognised by the industry with awards for innovation. We recently got one in European Utility Week for Europe, and that's good because I can shout and say, yes, we're good, but it's the industry that actually says to us whether we're good or not. Delighted to take questions at stand 6, myself and Simon, and any observations. So thanks for listening.